2024 in general has been a good year for gaming. We got some bangers like Black Myth Wukong, StellarBlade, Metaphor, Balatro, and many more. But there were some of the worst stinkers that the industry has ever seen, including the biggest financial disaster that any game studio has ever produced. So sit back, relax, have a snack, and let's get started. The first one on the list is Star Wars Outlaw. I know some people like the game, and I think that's mostly because of the environment and the Star Wars settings, but the actual gameplay for me felt so boring. The same kind of missions that you do over and over again. The worst AI any game has ever seen, and you can't even kill the animals. I know a lot of them have been fixed recently with the patches, but the core gameplay and even the story is not that good. I had really high hopes for this game as they showed us spaceships, gliders, lasers, and so many cool things that made the movies amazing. But even with all those things, they could not save the game. The sales, as it was reported, was not up to the standards that Ubisoft was hoping for. It sold over 1 million copies, which is not a bad number, but looking at all the other titles over the years, fell short by a big margin. It was a generic Ubisoft game with a Star Wars skin on top of it. Oh, you thought Ubisoft made one stinker? You were wrong. They made two. Ubisoft has such high hopes for this game that they called it a quadruple A game, the first one ever. They did that so that they could increase the price to $70, but it was a massive failure. I'm surprised that the game is still running. The few players they have must be spending millions of dollars into the game, or running a live service game with peak player count of only 2600 is not feasible. Keep in mind that these numbers are from Steam, and actual numbers would be much higher as the game will have players from the Ubisoft launcher, PS5, and Xbox. I will give props to Ubisoft because they're still releasing updates for the 1 or 2 players that still play the game. I don't know why they made the game as they did. They had the blueprint of one of the best pirate games out there, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but instead they decided to go this direction. Even Sea of Thieves was so much better than this. I had already lost hopes for Skull and Bones after watching some of the YouTubers who got a few hours of early access like a few months before its release. I only bought it because I had nothing else to play during that time. Overall, it's a much worse failure from the company than Star Wars Outlaw. The anime adaptations of games are becoming really good. Even some of the live-action adaptations of games are getting really good, like Last of Us. Why can't games from anime be good as well? All they make are arena fighting games with the characters from the anime. Don't get me wrong, some of them are really good. The Dragon Ball ones are excellent. Sparking Zero was really fun. But a Dragon Ball game being a fighting game makes sense cause all they do is fight. You will have a new villain in each arc who is much stronger than a previous one. Goku and his team will power up and defeat them. There is no real story as per se. But for the others, there is so much potential, but all they do is make generic fighting games which are not fun and are really cash grab opportunities for the company. This is no different, well apart from being one of the worst ones to do it. I think when Foam Stars was announced, people were excited about it. I don't really remember, but when it actually came out, no one was happy. It's kind of like Sony wanted to ride on the success of Nintendo and Splatoon. The gameplay is almost similar, but instead of shooting slime, you shoot foam. They thought that the free-to-play aspect of the game would lure in players and everyone would have great fun playing this game because they won't have to buy a Nintendo Switch to play something that looked and felt exactly similar. But that's where they got it wrong. The game do not feel similar. There was no real connection with the characters and the game, and it slowly fell to its grave. Also, being a PlayStation exclusive didn't really help it much. It nearly lost 95% of the player base, and I think the studio is on the verge of closing down its servers. I didn't really play this game too much. I tried it, got bored of it pretty quickly, and just never gave it another shot. There's nothing much to talk about it. A generic 4v4 shooter game with the twist being you can shoot foam through which you can surf around. A Splatoon spin-off that didn't really work out. To be honest, Unknown 9 Awakening was the game that came to my mind when I initially had the idea of the video. I thought of making this video because of this game. I bet that some of the people might not even know about the existence of the game. Set aside that this game was almost unplayable when it was launched because of its horrible PC port, the game is really bad. The story is boring. I think it's part of a series and the backstories of the character are not even fleshed out. The missions are bland and the character that you play is not that interesting. They had an interesting idea. The mind-controlled Jedi-like power that the protagonist has was an interesting concept. If they tried to make something good out of it, I'm sure this could have been one of the nominees for the best game of the year. But as it stands, the bland nature of it and the easiest puzzles in gaming history puts it down as one of the worst games of 2024. I think I played for about 30 to 40 minutes before thinking of refunding it, but the worst is yet to come. I have played all the games I have listed so far, except for the last two, but I can't make a list of worst games of the year and not include Concord in it. It was only the biggest economical failure in gaming history. 8 years of work gone down in just 8 days. The thing is, the few minutes of gameplay that I have seen from Twitch streamers playing it looks so bland that I was sure it wouldn't work. I thought that it would just be another hero shooter game and would fall off just like hundreds of others before it. There would be few people posting some insane clips on YouTube and TikTok, and that would be it. But boy was I wrong. It fell off right from the start. No one was willing to buy it. It had a peak player count of 2400 people when it was in open beta and the game was free. When it launched with a price tag of $40, no one bought it. The game felt like a blatant Overwatch clone with nothing really interesting to go on about. The characters were a thing of controversy and I don't really want to get into that. But even beside that, if anyone would ask me to play either a game of this or Overwatch, I would choose Overwatch 100% of the time. The sad part is, this took Sony and Fireworks Studios $400 million. Internally, they used to say that this was their Star Wars. Such a sad ending. But we still have one more game on the list. Remember when I said Skull and Bones was the last Ubisoft game on the list? Well, I was lying, as Champions Tactics is the absolute worst game to come out in 2024. I think many of us don't even know what the game is. Ubisoft released their new NFT game very quietly and it's absolutely horrible. It's a game where you collect NFT goblins and fighters and battle with people. It would have been a different topic if the gameplay loop was fun, or that the game was really engaging. But all you do in this game is collect NFT goblins and put them to battle. I think it was a partnership deal that Ubisoft made with an NFT company and they just made the game and released it without even announcing it, so people won't get angry at them. Because hardly anyone knew about it, even few bought the game. People have been really mad at Ubisoft recently and it's because their games have been consistently bad and boring. The last few titles like Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, Avatar, Assassin's Creed Mirage, they have all underperformed because it was almost the same game with a different skin. Because of that, the company's stock prices have plummeted. After this move, releasing an NFT game, people might lose all their faith that Ubisoft could make any good games. AC Shadows might be their last hope. And that was the list. These games were I believe to be the worst games of 2024. These are just my opinions and you might disagree with some of them or all of them. So let me know in the comments which one do you think deserve a spot on the list. The footage I used were the trailers released for the games as my PC is not powerful enough to record and run the game at the same time. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm also thinking of making the best games of 2024, so hit that subscribe button to get notified. Also hit that like button as it helps me out a lot. See you in the next one.